You want to be more social, but you feel awkward trying to force conversations or pretending to be someone you're not. You sense that in trying to fit in, you're drifting away from yourself. There's an invisible tension in the heart of those who long to connect, but don't want to lose themselves in the process. Being authentic feels lonely. Blending in feels like betrayal. What few realize is that social insecurity is often just the surface symptom of something deeper, a lack of a rooted identity. When you don't know who you are, every attempt to connect feels artificial, like playing a role on a stage you never asked to be on. Jordan Peterson reminds us that real connection doesn't come from trying to please others, but from the quiet decision to take a stand. It's when you begin to live as someone who has value, even in silence, that people start to hear what your presence is saying before you ever speak a word. You don't need to bloom like others. You just need to tend the right root. When the roots are healthy, the flower will bloom in its time, and beauty becomes inevitable. Today, I want to show you how to become more social without losing yourself, without shaping yourself to others, and without dimming the light God placed inside you.
1. The trap of pleasing to belong. How many times have you caught yourself saying things you don't believe, laughing at things that aren't funny, or accepting invitations that drain you, just so you won't feel out of place? Trying to please others to be accepted might seem like a smart solution, but over time, it turns into exhaustion. When your identity revolves around external approval, you begin to depend on others' eyes to know who you are, and that takes a toll. You feel invisible, even when surrounded by people, and worst of all, you feel like you can't be fully yourself anywhere. Galatians 1:10 reminds us, "If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ." That's a liberating truth. Authentic connection doesn't come from trying to please everyone, but from having the courage to be whole enough to attract those who recognize your truth. 2. The silent mistake of believing that being reserved is a flaw. We live in a society that applauds noise, celebrates extroverts, and teaches, often subtly, that silence is weakness. But that's a beautifully disguised lie. Being introspective is not the same as being shy, weak, or isolated. Reserved people carry a quiet strength that can transform entire spaces. Psychology already confirms this. Calm and steady presence inspires trust and draws people in naturally. While performers may entertain, the serene bring peace. It's the difference between fireworks and glowing embers. Embers don't need to make noise. They warm the soul steadily. Ask yourself, in which area of your life can you be more present than loud and still leave an impact? Maybe you don't need to speak more. Maybe you just need to be more present.
3. Be curious, not impressive. The relational secret no one told you. There's a common mistake, believing that in order to be accepted, you have to be the most interesting person in the room, the smartest, funniest, most articulate. But the most powerful relational secret is the opposite. Be curious. Neuroscience has already shown that when you ask genuine questions and truly listen, you trigger a sense of value, belonging, and joy in the other person. The brain of someone who feels heard releases dopamine, the same chemical involved in reward and pleasure. Proverbs 25 says, "The purposes of a person's heart are deep waters, but one who has insight draws them out." When you listen with attention, you're not just connecting, you're honoring the depth of another's soul. Practice this. Show up with open questions instead of rehearsed stories. And when you listen, be fully present, not in a rush to respond. It changes everything. 4. Communicate without compromising. How to keep your faith and values in social spaces. Many Christians avoid social circles for fear of being corrupted. Others blend in so much they become unrecognizable. Neither path reflects the gospel. Jesus was a living presence among all, but he never lost his essence. He was a friend to tax collectors, sinners, rejected women, and yet he never compromised his values. He was salt and light. He didn't need to shout his faith, just live it with integrity. Matthew 5 reminds us of this. Your mission in the world is not to conform, but to reveal. And you reveal more through posture than through speeches. Write down, if needed, one value you will never give up, and choose to make it visible, not through force, but through embodiment.
Being more social is not a call to become someone you're not. It's a call to learn how to express your essence with more freedom, courage, and faithfulness. C.S. Lewis once said, "Friendship is born at that moment when one person says to another, 'What, you too? I thought I was the only one.'" It's in that moment of recognition that bridges are built. But for that to happen, you must be willing to be seen. God did not call you to be invisible, but he also didn't call you to be a generic copy of someone else. You are shaped for connection, and when you relate with truth, you reflect God himself. Maybe you're just one honest listening ear, or one simple hi away from building relationships that don't require you to hide, but instead slowly reveal who you truly are and who he is through you.